God had made everything in my life so uncomfortable. It was so bad that I don't think I've ever talked about this on camera, but I think it's time because it's been so long. But it was so bad that I'm just so embarrassed to tell you what went down. But I think it has been long enough because that was in Maryland, y'all. I moved to California for 5 years and now I'm in Louisiana. That was a very long time ago. All right, so I'm gonna tell y'all what happened. 16 subs. Shout out to my 16 subscribers on my new YouTube channel. Thank you very much. I am very excited about this because my goal for this week is going to be 100 subscribers. So let me tell you what's going on. So I found out yesterday that YouTube took away my YouTube channel. It was Jordan. Found out that YouTube took down my account. I had about 12,000 subscribers, and I basically did content. I guess you could call it, people would call it like risky content. Not like that. I mean, let me be clear, like telling people who the Hebrews are and stuff like that. Stuff like that, the deep stuff that people don't want people to know about. And yeah, so I'm just kind of processing that because it just kind of like, it's like 12, it takes a while to build up those subscribers. And I don't know, it was high. And I had about 12,000 subscribers. But the good news is that I found out that I'm possibly just in copyright jail. I know.
You're stealing, right to jail. You're playing music too loud, right to jail, right away. You're driving too fast, jail. Slow, jail.
It's just, I'm in jail right now, and I think it's gonna be for 30 days, so I can get my account back in 30 days, I believe. But I think this was a good thing because I believe that God is orchestrating my steps. I firmly believe that God is like, has a path and a plan for me. And I have prayed that, you know, I just surrender to it and he can do what he wants with my life. And so sometimes I just stumble into these things. And so when a lot of things feels like it's happening at once, or it feels like a lot of pressure, I actually am like, okay, this is actually a good thing because this means that something big is about to happen. Because when you feel like you want to just give up, when you feel like you've done everything that you possibly could do, that's the perfect place to be, because now it's like, now you can let God take over. Now you can be like, I've done everything I could possibly do for this situation, for that situation. I personally cannot do anything anymore. And so God is like, great, finally, you're going to let me take over. So that's what's happening right now. And so I think what has happened is that God has moved me into direction to do my own original content so that I can finally get monetized, because my old channel wasn't monetized because I did a lot of stitches. And let me talk about that for just a little bit. Being on social media for a long time, this is what I've learned. I've learned that if you want to get your stuff out there, don't nobody know who you are, right? And you are trying to build an audience. Psychologically, you need to get people used to seeing your face because they don't know you. When they see you, most of the time, unless you have some really kind of crazy catchy thing, they're gonna scroll because they don't recognize you. So in order to get people to start to recognize your face and start to first recognize your face and then maybe say, okay, well, what's this lady all about? Or what's this person all about? TikTok had these great features called stitches and duets, where you could duet a video. You probably
saw a video of a lady talking about someone named Nara Smith, and she was like,
seen videos where people are like, have a frame either from top to bottom or on the side profile, and they're like, either like doing a reaction to a video or even doing some commentary. A lot of people do that on YouTube now, but the loophole is for what makes it original content is that they pause the video. There's a certain requirement to make that original content. So, and a lot of people have found success with that. I too have found success with the stitches and the duets. But TikTok and YouTube, the way that I did mine's, does not deem that as original content. And I think I've done enough groundwork to where now some people are recognizing me that I can do original content now, and people will see my face and recognize me. So I think that was a good thing, because I know how long it took to get to 12,000 subscribers. It took a very long time. In fact, I had given up on YouTube, and the idea of starting over, starting from scratch, God had already put that on my heart to do, but I didn't want to do it because it feels like hard work. But sometimes God will like push you in a direction where you kind of have to do something. And I feel like that's where we are right now. And so I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity and start doing some original content, some longer form content, try to make it a little bit more professional as much as I can, because all these things cost, like to get equipment, to get the cameras and all that stuff costs money. So I am of the business belief that we're going to use what we have to do what we
one eternity later.
We're going to use what we have, and then as we grow, if income starts coming in from that business, whether it be social media or any business that I'm working on, then we'll use the income from that business to build. And I'm going to stick by that, because ain't no sense in investing in all this stuff when you haven't even, when you're not making any money. And sure, maybe people do it differently, but this is how I'm going to do it. And I think it's a decent strategy, and that's just what I'm going to do. So you can stick around and watch, see if it works for me. And you don't have to, maybe you have a life, and maybe you have tons of things to do. And maybe you're like, girl, I ain't got time to be checking up and seeing what you're doing. You're like, or maybe you're like, let me go see what this girl can do with nothing. She starts off with zero subscribers, and let's see if she can get those numbers. And maybe I can take some things that she does and maybe build my profile. I don't know why you want to watch me, but I appreciate you being here regardless. So there's that. So I have to make some longer form content. I'm probably going to do some story times. And the good news about this is that I have tried all types of social media. So I have a good idea of what works and how to work it. So this, even though I'm starting from the bottom again, I have the knowledge of, okay, this is what we have to do to make it work. And so that's what we're doing. And so let me reintroduce myself to anybody that may be new to my channel. If anybody has stumbled across this and you're like, okay, what are you all about? My name is Chandra Marielle. Oh, hey, good morning, TikTok. You know something, I always see people cooking online, and one thing I always want to be like, scream through the live, you gotta have something to anchor your cutting board.
I like baked beans cold from the tin.
So do I. Genuinely, people think this is ridiculous.
My name is Chandra Marielle. I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland, but I moved to California in 2019 to start a business because my life was just like going nowhere. I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids. I was just working jobs and after jobs after jobs. They weren't going anywhere. So I was just like, what is life and why am I existing if this is all that there is? And so I remember just always feeling like I wanted to travel. I remember like if people were like talking to me, they was like, oh, I was like, I really want to travel. I always had this like thing within me to travel. And I didn't realize until God had taken me through a spiritual journey. And we can talk about that in just a little bit. Maybe I'll do a separate video about my spiritual journey, my encounter with God and how my life was transformed. But today I'm just kind of do something general. But I was on like a spiritual journey when God, when I was feeling like I wanted to move. God had made everything in my life so uncomfortable. It was so bad that I don't think I've ever talked about this on camera, but I think it's time because it's been so long. But it was so bad that I'm just so embarrassed to tell you what went down. But I think it has been long enough because that was in Maryland, y'all. I moved to California for 5 years and now I'm in Louisiana. That was a very long time ago. All right, so I'm gonna tell y'all what happened. Okay, all right, so this is what happened. My life was so uncomfortable. I was working at this job. I was working at a really nice hotel. It was like this fancy hotel. I was a chef or a cook or a line cook at this job, and I was walking to work. My life, I would always go through these patterns. Like, I would have money and then I wouldn't have money. I would get new cars and then I would lose the cars because I couldn't pay for it. I was basically raising myself from the age of 17 until now. And I would even say my childhood, I don't know if we have time to go back this far, but my mom passed away when I was 9 and I moved in with a guardian who was a church friend of my mother. And long story short, I had my quarrels with her. And, there's a lot of things in my childhood that I would blame her for. I was upset about. There was some trauma and all that stuff. But as an adult, I understand that her taking us in was more than what she was responsible for. And that's just how she treated us. And it's nothing, that's okay. You know what I mean? She treated us as if she had taken us in. And that we should just be grateful that she has taken us in. We should be grateful that she fed us because she did. We had plenty of food to eat. I actually gained a lot of weight. I was a really skinny kid. I gained a lot of weight when I moved in with her because we had access to food all the time. We didn't always have access to food when I was very little. And then we had a roof over her head. She had some coins. She had a little bit of coins, a little bit of money. So she had like a nice house. So we went to good schools. But up until 5th grade, I went to Baltimore City public schools and they weren't the best. So my foundation with education wasn't great, but they had good schools in her community. She lived in the suburbs of Maryland. So we got a decent education. We still went to church, so we got to learn about God. You know what I mean? So I didn't have a relationship with him yet, and I'll talk about that spiritual journey in another video. But, we had a relationship. I mean, we got to know God. We got to know the basics, Bible stories, good moral character, like moral behavior, like be kind, tell the truth, those things like that. She bought our clothes from the thrift store, but we had lots of clothes because she was a person that just bargain hunted. But we never liked the outfits. I mean, she dressed us like we lived on Little House on the Prairie. So that was like traumatizing to us, especially being young and having to go to school with dresses down to your feet. That's a lot for a child. And, you know, we'll get into that later about the psychological problems of that. But like I said, I'm not going to make this about her because as an adult, I understand that she took us in. She didn't have to do any more or any less. And what I learned from living there was I learned a work ethic. We had to work all the time. We had to clean the house from top to bottom. She would literally take a white cloth to check to see if there was dirt on after we cleaned. So we were literally trained to clean like professional housekeepers. And that's probably why I hate cleaning to this day. That's why I want to make enough money so that I can always pay for cleaning, because I feel like I've cleaned, I don't want to do that anymore. So I have to make enough money to have a housekeeper. But we learned a work ethic. We got to stay in church. Our family kind of split apart after that because me and my sister were really close, and she separated us in different rooms. Like my sister was like in the lower area of the home, and I was upstairs, she like expanded the home. She made rooms downstairs where the basement used to be. So my sister was down there, my brother was down there, but I was the youngest, so I was upstairs with them. And that's a whole dynamic too. I just feel like me and my sister grew apart. My brother was just never home. He was a senior at the time. So he was just, we were just trying to do the best that we can with what we have. Where was my dad, you may ask? So my mom, before she passed away, she got my dad to fill out paperwork to give up, to let us have a guardian. Because at the time, and I wish, there's a lot of conversations that I wish that I could have had with my mom, and I will have them in heaven if we even remember this stuff. Because I know there's no tears in heaven, so we may not even remember that kind of stuff. But if I do get to talk to her about these things, she probably, you never know, like as I passed her age, she died when she was 38 or 42 or something like that. I can't remember. Let me see. 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 30, 39, 40. She was around 41, 42. So I've passed that age of where she was in life. And so like, I know now that she don't always have life figured out. And so at the time, she wanted us to be in a place where we could still go to church. That was important to her, to still be able to attend church. And my dad, I believe that my dad would have been, definitely wouldn't have been as strict as being at that house. And you never know, we could have ended up pregnant, me and my sister, my brother, we could have ended up having kids out of wedlock. You never know what could have happened. So everything happens for a reason. And, you can go back and do shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but the truth is that's the life. And you have to take what you get out of life and you have to make something of it. I feel like I've been stagnant a lot. I feel like one of the reasons why I'm not married, because my social skills, we didn't really, we were very sheltered, so we couldn't do like school dances or anything. We weren't very social. So those times where it's like you probably would have met your husband or like been able to be social, I just missed all that in life. And I also believe that, if I would have gotten married at a young age, I believe I would have been divorced by now. I'm gonna just be honest. And so I desire to be married, but it's not, I also have a realistic understanding of marriage. And if it doesn't happen, it's not gonna be the worst thing, because there's parts of being single that I've learned to appreciate, So hold on one second. So I feel like I'm getting sidetracked, but I think I was talking about how I feel like I made a lot of mistakes trying to figure life out. Look how crooked, you are. Denzel Washington and the movie The Fences, which is done by a black playwright. I can't think of his name right now, but he's pretty popular. And he wrote Fences. He wrote the script and the play for Fences. And one of the things that here go to the paid actor, the dog. I can't even talk in this house without that dog telling me that I'm too loud. And it's not my fault that his ears are hypersensitive. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I live here. You know what I mean? Do I deserve this treatment? No, I don't. Anyway, but anyway, Denzel Washington said,
couldn't see nothing. I just laid there and cried and didn't know what I was going to do. But I knew time had come for me to leave my daddy's house. And suddenly the world got big. It was a long time before I could cut it down the way I could handle it.
Story of him and his father and that whole crazy story. He says something like he left his dad's house at a really young age, and he said it was a long time before he was able to chop it up or sort it out or just sort life out. Because when you're kind of thrown out too early with not enough guidance on how to navigate life, and this is a lot of us, this is not like, I'm not exception to the rule, you know, this is just life, you know, you have to figure things out. And at that time, I didn't have a relationship with God where I could tap in and be like, Lord, should I do this? Should I do that? I was nowhere near that. I mean, I wasn't like what people would consider, I wasn't like a bad kid or did a lot of crazy things because I was sheltered a lot. So me being sheltered, the life that I lived, it felt like I was just a terrible person. But a terrible person was just, you know, I don't know, like if I lied or something, but I really was sheltered a lot. And I really, I thought I was a Christian, but I didn't learn till later. I was a Christian religiously, but I didn't have a relationship with God. And that changes everything. I feel like a lot of people are still living in Christian default mode and they haven't had an experience or an encounter with God that has transformed them. And that spiritually to where you can tap in and then God starts to do the work starts to transform you, and you'll always be progressing, you know. And in a lot of ways, you know, I feel like I'm misunderstood. I feel like there's a lot of spiritual things that I'm understanding now, and then where God is leading me. And I feel like my encounters are very spiritual. And, you know, that's a whole nother story. But if I have conflict with someone, it's typically spiritual. So I'm very hyper aware of these things, but it's hard to explain that to people. And then people, even me saying this, people probably would disagree with me and they make their own interpretation of it. But I'm very sensitive spiritually, and I read very well. And so people don't like when you can see them, when you can see through them, when you can see about them. They don't like that. And so a lot of my encounters are spiritual, and I have a lot of conflict because of it. But, you know, that it's hard to explain that to people. It's hard for people to understand. And even if I say that, people won't understand. They won't believe. They probably just think I'm crazy, and they, you know, or they don't get it and they dismiss it. And it's just like, oh, it's you or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, obviously I feel like I have a lot in my life to fix, but I'm very spiritually sensitive. It's basically what I'm trying to say. And then, so let's get back to what happened when I was in Maryland, because this is the story that I've never actually told on camera, because I was embarrassed, to be honest with you. It's an embarrassing story. And so what happened was God was making everything so uncomfortable. And I had recently got a dog. I got him from a shelter, and I think I had him for about 2 years. And there was an incident where the landlord of that place said he was going to come in to fumigate the apartment because I had a bed bug infestation. And if you know anything about bed bugs, then you'll know that they're extremely hard to get rid of. They like bite you, you know what I mean? And I hope this hasn't stopped my video. Let me make sure I'm still recording. They bite you like in marks. I had bites all over. Before I realized it was an infestation, I just figured, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was going on. And I had bed bugs a couple of times. I know this sounds terrible, and that's why I didn't want to talk about it on camera. But I was always just never, my life was just never together. Sometimes I would have to sleep in my car if things didn't go well. And so I was staying in a lot of hotels, and this hotel that I stayed at, a lot of hotels have bed bug infestations. So you gotta, that's why I always check now before I stay at a hotel. You gotta check the mattress. You gotta check. And so I had experiences with that before. Nothing like this though. And so I would just find the marks, and I would, and it's such a weird skeevy feeling of like you can't, it's like this, like I can't, like, what is this? It's such a terrible feeling to like not, because when you wake up, you can't see them. They like hide, and you can look for them and you can't find them. You wake up and you got bite marks. It just feels like such a violation. And so it was an infestation. I woke up one morning and I went to the mirror, and one was like on my shirt. And I had finally found the evidence that I needed. And so when I started to look around the house, and I had been looking around the house, I've been looking at my mattress, I lifted up the mattress, and was it there, or I can't remember. I think it was like, we had this exposed brick. And when I went to the exposed brick, they were everywhere. They were everywhere. Remember, this is back in Maryland. I don't have bed bugs now. That's why I don't want to tell the story, because people get weird and they're like, oh my gosh, don't get near. Because bed bugs, you don't want people, it's probably people you sit next to got bed bugs. It's people don't talk about it because I feel like it's such a bad thing to have, because they can travel, and you don't like want to be associated with bed bugs. And that's one of the reasons I didn't tell this story, because I know how people think. And people will be like, oh, don't come near me. You possibly have a bed bug from 20 years ago. So that's why I didn't tell the story. But that was in Maryland. That was almost 8 some years ago. I don't have bed bugs anymore, for a disclaimer. I don't have bed bugs, but I did. And I also believe it was spiritual. I believe everything is spiritual. I believe everything happens for a reason. And the things that I was into, I guess we're going to talk about this. I watched a lot of porn at the time. Sorry for you sanctified saints. I keeps it real. But that is true. I did things. I didn't like sleep around, but I did things. All right. To kind of give you an idea. And so I had like a porn addiction at the time, and that stuff with like porn and masturbation and all that stuff, just to keep it real, like we're all adults here, I hope there's no kids here. That stuff, God doesn't like that. He doesn't like you to kindle a fire that you can't put out. That's why he wants you to be married. I'm running out of time. So I was running out of time. So those things manifest demonic entities such as incubus, succubus. And people, if you don't understand how the spiritual realm works, you pick up, those are one of the reasons why God wanted us to have marriage is because he knew that those when you deal with sexual immorality, those spirits that attach to you are really difficult to get off of you. They're like addictions, like I was in a porn addiction because I had those spirits that had an appetite for that, and I created it by and then you never are satisfied. Once you start down that road, you start off with some type of fetish or whatever, but then it begins to never be enough until it escalates and escalates and escalates. So when you get to the place where you're taking people out, or doing, like when you hear the people on the news that are getting arrested for doing heinous crimes, it starts with things like porn. It starts with sexual immorality. It starts with those things. And if you don't get delivered from it, that's where that stuff leads you, because those spirits are never satisfied. So those things, you got to get delivered from those type of things. You have to go get deliverance for those. But maybe that's a video that we'll do. We'll talk about deliverance. But just to keep on track, I was in a repetitive. I had been into the stuff like that since I was a kid. And that was introduced to me by another kid. So you got to watch what your kids are doing. That's why I know, like, you got to watch your kids, you know what I mean? And you got to, somebody is texting me, so I hope this is not stopping. And Satan tries to get them early. And if you remember when you were a child, you probably remember some things that happened early on, because Satan is trying to start with you early, especially if you're chosen. So it's super important, if you're a parent or if you watch kids, to just be mindful of those things, that Satan is busy. But struggle with that for a while. And I think that is why the infestation happened. Because at that time I was like deep in it. And I do believe, like I said, I do believe that God allows those things to happen. And he was making things so uncomfortable to get my attention. And then here was the last straw, when like I had this big bug infestation. My life wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't married. I just felt like, what am I doing with my life type. I would get jobs, but I was, stay, leave, and then I would get another job. And it just was like, what am I doing with my life? And by that time I was in my 30s. So it was really like, well, what we doing, Chandra? Because this ain't working. You know what I mean? So I was feeling inclined to take a road trip. And I talked about this before on my other YouTube channel, but it was like, I talked about that really early on and my channel got taken down. So we're going to talk about it again, just a little bit. I was feeling inclined to take a road trip. I was going to take a road trip from Maryland to Miami. I just wanted to travel. I didn't know at the time that God was trying to get me to move. He wanted me to move. But at the time I just felt like this urge to travel. And keep in mind, this was in around 2019, which I found out later is when the curse was broken off of our people, off the true Hebrews. And so I started this trip. I have business stuff. Somebody's trying to text me about a party. So I think it's not cutting me off, but I do think it is slowing me down. But anyway, so I started that road trip, and remember, I never had an accumulative amount of money. I literally so I had started that road trip with the idea that I would do Uber, because I lived in Maryland, but you could work in DC, Maryland, and Virginia as an Uber driver. But I didn't know that to go from state to state in Uber, you actually had to do new paperwork every time. I feel like the lighting has changed. So long story short, I ended up not getting as far as I wanted to, so I came back home. When I came back home, I still, as life was going on, I still felt this urge to travel, because I had made it to South Carolina during that trip. And that had fulfilled something in me. And I was like, I want to travel again. Or, yeah, it was still about traveling. And around this time with the whole bed bug situation, my dog, who was like all that I had in life, not really, but really, passed away. And he passed away because my landlord came to spray for the infestation. And we were told that we need to be out of the house for this period of time. But I guess the spray must have been so strong that either we should have stayed out longer, or that stuff that he used should not have been around pets. And he didn't let me know. So my dog immediately was poisoned. And I didn't have any money for medical bills, and I was trying to figure out how, because I love my dog. I wanted to save him, but like I said, I never was in a position where I just had stacks of money just like laying around. And so when you don't have money, things are just really complicated. And he ended up passing away, and I was devastated. And so after and I thank God this all had to happen for a reason, because when he passed away, I was like, you know what, there's nothing really holding me here in Baltimore anymore. Because I was like, I don't want to travel, because I was thinking about moving. I can't remember if I wanted to move to California or just travel to California. But either way, I was exploring traveling. And I was like, I don't want to do that to a dog. I think that would be hard on a dog, because I knew I was going to have to thug it out. I was going to have to sleep in the car because I didn't have all this money. And so him passing away was like the end of it. Like, I was just like, I can't continue to live my life like this. My dog just passed away. I got all this stuff going on. I wanted to leave. And so during that time is when I decided to move to California. And that's when I started my spiritual journey. And we'll get into that story later. And I'm supposed to be just telling y'all about who I am. I don't know how we got into all my personal business like that, but that's just what I do. I feel like being transparent will help other people navigate the things in their life if they're going through these things. And so I don't mind being transparent because I'm delivered from these things. And people will have their opinion about you. That's the price of exposing yourself in this way. But I have nothing to hide. God, I don't have nothing to hide, because I know that I truly live a life to seek to honor God. So, like, there's nothing you could say about me. There's nothing you could talk about me. Like, I don't care, I just really care about what my Father in heaven thinks about me. And I try to live my life to please him. And so I tell you these stories, not always, obviously, I want to build my accounts and, obviously, but I want to have something to talk about. But I also talk about these things because I pray that this social media thing does a couple things. Not only does it help me to build a financial empire, but it also helps people as well. And I try to do both, but yeah, so that is a little bit about my past on why I left Baltimore. I moved to California for about 5-6 years. I experienced making the most money I've ever made in my life. And I thought it was a lot of money because I never made that much money. It was the most I experienced the most stableness and financially that I've ever experienced. But there's another story. We'll get into that story later because I don't want to make this video too long. This is more like an introduction about who I am, that I was in Baltimore, I moved to California, and now I'm in Louisiana. I came here for ministry because remember, I was on that spiritual journey for like a 5-year spiritual journey. I got delivered. I was baptized by the Holy Spirit. I received spiritual utterance. And so you're catching me still. And now I've been in it for a little bit, a couple years, maybe like going on 5, 6, 7 years. And now I'm at the point where I'm still like walking things out. But because I don't want to lose the fire. I was on fire when I first was just like awakening up. And man, I was always in my Bible. I was always praying. And I don't want to lose that. But there comes a point when you like kind of like you can lose the fire. So I have to be really careful about that. So that's something I want to be intentional about because, you know, I have this relationship with God and I love him, and I need to make sure that I make time for him like I did in the beginning. And that's why, you know, we were super close. We still are. I still hear his voice. We still talk. But I want to honor him and give him his time that he deserves. And so, and so I'm doing this private chef thing out here, trying to figure it out. It's not going to work like it did in California because people had a lot of money in California. People have money here, but the ratio of just anybody getting a private, it's just different. So I have to figure something different out here. And I'm okay with that because I've had so many failures in life that now it's like I know how to play this game. And I know the sense of urgency I need to have to get there. So it's like, it doesn't feel like I'm starting over. It just feels like, okay, how can I implement the plan that I've learned in life? And so that's where I am. I started a pop-up called Jamaicanish, and which I want to try to do individual meals, but I'm also doing the private chef thing and catering thing. However, I can. Don't forget, if you want to place your orders, you have to do it by 12 midnight. We're going to be open from Wednesday to Saturday. You're going to text that number so that I can give you any additional details. You can order, if you want to order for Friday, you can place your order today. You don't have to wait for the day before. You can order your days in advance. Maybe you want to do something for your co-workers. Maybe you guys do lunch weekly and you want to order from Jamaicanish, support a Hebrew business. Shout out to you. We just need you to do it at least the day before, at least 24 hours before. However, you can order in as advance as you want to. That would actually, the earlier you order would be better, as we are trying to, get into position. We're a new business. We're just starting from the ground up. So there's a lot of things that we have to work out. So the pre-orders are what's going to be most beneficial to us right now. So I appreciate everybody that has been ordering. We're just going to ease things out. So I appreciate y'all's support. Don't forget to place your orders for this week. You can put them in as early as and by midnight for tomorrow, and then so on and so forth. And thank you so much for your support. We are still doing donations for if you want to help to donate to give people a free meal. We have been taking full advantage of that and helping people out. And so I appreciate those people who have been giving donations to help support and give out free meals to people. So I appreciate you. May God bless you 100, 1,000-fold. And I will be talking to you guys soon. Have a beautiful day. And thank you so much for watching. All right, y'all. So let's wrap this story time up. I think I've shared a lot of information. Let's wrap it up. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. Please like, comment, subscribe. I'm trying to build a new channel, so I need your help. If you could like, comment, and subscribe and share, I'd really appreciate that. And if you'd like to leave a donation, I believe all that information is in my link tree. If you'd like to leave a donation, because content creators do need donations to sustain their work. This is how we get paid. But you don't have to. But if you ever can, like, throw somebody, even if it's not me, like $5, $10, it really does help. So God bless y'all. Y'all have an amazing day, and thanks for watching. Bye.